The lights were soft, the laughter polite, and the air in the studio carried that familiar warmth of charm and curiosity that Jonathan Ross had perfected over the years. Meghan Markle entered radiant, composed, and every bit the picture of confidence. But what started as a pleasant chat on British television soon turned into one of the most tense and unforgettable interviews of her career. The Jonathan Ross show set shimmered under golden studio lights. Jonathan sat relaxed in his signature chair, cue cards in hand, his quick humor resting just behind a practiced smile. Across from him, Meghan Markle settled gracefully into her seat, elegant as ever. The audience clapped warmly as the cameras began to roll, the applause fading into a quiet anticipation. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jonathan started in his familiar tone, "please welcome back to the UK the Duchess herself, Meghan Markle." Meghan's smile was polite and practiced, though her expression barely moved. "Thank you, Jonathan. It's nice to be back for a little while." "Ah, temporary royalty," Jonathan teased, earning laughter from the audience. "So, what brings you to our humble island this time? Tea, scones, or maybe a little drama?" Meghan gave a short laugh, controlled, polite. "Actually, I'm here for an award ceremony next week. Just a recognition event. Then it's back to California where the sun shines and people smile a little more sincerely." Jonathan raised an eyebrow, still grinning. "Ouch! Careful now. We still have tea and manners here." "Oh, I love tea," Meghan said smoothly, crossing her legs. "Manners, though. I think California's catching up." The audience chuckled, but the laughter felt slightly uneasy. Jonathan noticed it, but kept his tone cheerful. "We're still glad to have you. You've made plenty of headlines since you left. How's life in America treating you?" "It's peaceful," Meghan said with a measured tone. "Free. 10 times better than the chaos I left behind. No curtsies required. No tabloids waiting outside yoga class. Just real life." Jonathan nodded politely. "That sounds quite calm. I suppose you don't miss much about royal life then." Her smile softened, though her eyes flickered briefly. "I miss some people, some moments, but not the structure." "Structure," Jonathan repeated with amusement. "That's a polite word for monarchy." Meghan smirked slightly. "I'm being polite because we're on live television." The crowd laughed again, but Jonathan could sense the sharpness under her tone. He shifted gears. "You mentioned people you miss. Would that include the Prince and Princess of Wales?" Meghan's smile froze for half a second. "Jonathan, I think we both know that question isn't as innocent as it sounds." He chuckled lightly, holding up his hands. "Just curiosity, Meghan. People are always wondering if there's been any tea shared between Windsor and Montecito lately." "Tea?" she repeated with a small, sharp laugh. "No tea, just boundaries. Healthy ones, I hope." Jonathan grinned. "Ah, emotional distance," he continued. "The new royal protocol." Even Meghan smiled at that, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Something like that." Jonathan flipped his card, keeping the tone light. "And Harry, how's he doing? There's always talk, about pressure in the media." "Rumors," she said firmly. "I stopped reading fiction years ago. Harry's wonderful. Our kids are happy. Anyone saying otherwise probably needs a new hobby." Jonathan laughed politely. "Fair enough. You do seem quite unbothered." "I am," Meghan said, leaning back. "You learn to be when you stop letting other people write your story." A small applause rose from the audience. Jonathan smiled, though his eyes looked thoughtful. "Still, the British public's curious. Many think you've distanced yourself from your roots." "When your roots keep getting dug up by strangers," Meghan said smoothly, "you learn to plant yourself somewhere else." Jonathan chuckled. "Poetic. That sounds like a line from Suits." The audience laughed, but Meghan's smile tightened. "I guess everything I say sounds like a script to people who can't imagine I'm genuine." Jonathan lifted his palms slightly in mock surrender. "Not accusing, just observing. Speaking of Suits, people often ask if you'd ever return to acting." "Acting?" she said with a dry laugh. "I think I've done enough of that for one lifetime." "Ouch," Jonathan said, grinning. "Well, you've certainly lived a few scripts." "Haven't we all?" she replied calmly, though the air thickened between them. Jonathan cleared his throat. You've said life in the U.S. is calmer. Do you ever see yourself spending more time back here? Not unless the weather and the tabloids improve, she said with a smirk. The audience laughed again, though the sound was uneasy. Jonathan smiled thinly. So no plans to move near Windsor again? No, she replied firmly. I've already done my time here. America's home now. Warmer weather, warmer people. Fair enough, Jonathan said, still grinning, though I think the audience might disagree about the warmth part. Meghan's lips curved into that cool half-smile. Oh, Jonathan, disagreement is Britain's love language. The laughter that followed was cautious. The tension beneath the humor was starting to show. Jonathan straightened his cards. Before we go to break, I must say, you have a way with words, Meghan. Every answer sounds like it's ready for the headlines. She looked directly at the camera, her voice calm but clipped. That's not my fault, Jonathan. That's yours. A quiet gasp rippled through the room. Jonathan's smile faltered for a heartbeat before he chuckled. Touché, Duchess. The red camera light blinked. Commercial break. The laughter faded. For a brief moment, they just sat there, her gaze steady, his grin barely holding. When the cameras returned, the air had changed. The charm was still there, but the mood was sharp. Welcome back, Jonathan said, his voice steady. We're here with Meghan Markle, actress, advocate, mother, duchess, and connoisseur of good lighting. The audience laughed softly. Meghan smiled faintly. You forgot human being, Jonathan. That one's important, too. Ah, yes, he replied with a chuckle. The rarest title of all. Exactly, she said, her tone sweet but cool. It's good to remind people sometimes, Jonathan nodded. I'm sure the British press could use that reminder. They haven't made things easy for you. No, she said flatly. They haven't, but the thing about noise, it eventually becomes background. He smiled. And yet you still seem to make headlines effortlessly. Effortlessly, she repeated, raising an eyebrow. You say that like it's my fault people are obsessed with me? Jonathan laughed lightly. I didn't say obsessed, just highly engaged. Call it what it is, she replied. Britain loves drama. I just happen to be the latest episode, the audience murmured. Jonathan shifted slightly in his chair. All right, fair enough. But don't you think sometimes you add to it? Her eyes narrowed. You mean by existing? No, he said quickly. By speaking out, doing interviews, documentaries, you've chosen visibility. People love to talk about my choices, she said sharply, but never ask why I had to make them. I didn't create the storm, Jonathan. I just learned how to dance in it. The line earned light applause. Jonathan nodded, though his tone grew firmer. Even the best dancers need a rest. What brings you back this week? An award event, she said smoothly. Smile, wave, say a few words, then back to California, where life makes sense again. He smiled. You make it sound like you're allergic to England. I wouldn't say allergic, she said with a grin that glinted. Just intolerant. The audience gasped and laughed together. Jonathan rubbed his chin. That's one way to put it. So California suits you better? Oh, completely, she said. The air's cleaner, the people are freer, and the sun actually shows up. Tough crowd, he murmured. Still, you lived here once, famously. You must miss something. The architecture, maybe, she said casually. The food, not so much. The politeness, sometimes. The judgment? Never. A mix of laughter and murmurs filled the room. Jonathan smiled awkwardly. Well, that's one review Visit Britain won't be quoting. They're welcome to, she said lightly. I'm used to being misquoted anyway. You're a tough interview, Jonathan admitted. You make even the pros sweat. I like keeping people honest, she said softly, though her tone had an edge. Jonathan hesitated, then smiled again. All right, Meghan, you've given us a lot to think about. I usually do, she replied coolly. And a few headlines, too, I imagine. Not my problem anymore, she said calmly. You can have them. The red light blinked again for break. The audience clapped politely. Jonathan exhaled, glancing toward his crew. He'd interviewed presidents, comedians, and rock legends, but this one was different. Backstage, Meghan paced quietly while Jonathan sat at his desk. Sipping water, his charm replaced by quiet irritation. Producers whispered about cutting to commercials again, but he shook his head. "Let's finish it," he muttered. "If she wants to walk, fine. But not before people see what this really is." Moments later, Meghan returned to the stage, calm and composed. The applause was polite but uncertain. She took her seat again, her posture perfect. Jonathan smiled faintly. "Welcome back, Meghan. So, you didn't leave me for good?" "Not yet," she said evenly. "I believe in finishing what I start." He nodded slowly. "So do I. The cam,